We go out here and out here. No, sorry, out here and there to the input of these.
Knowing which cables to connect is easy.
They have to be all the same, huh? They have to be all balanced.
It's everything else that's the challenge. And despite careful planning, things don't always work out the way they're meant to.
Nothing what you need from here to support you guys? Over there, over?
No, at the moment everything is fine. We have everything that we need.
Along with logistics and know-how, team spirit is essential.
The junction boxes will be here on this side. They're always on one side. Start with that.
So is a taste for adventure and a talent for improvisation.
It's up here. It's nice height.
Building solar photovoltaic systems on remote islands in the Federated States of Micronesia is not your average 9-to-5 job. It's more of an action-packed mission made possible, despite extreme hurdles.
We should have lights over there now.
But the successes speak for themselves. In early February 2009, the supply ship, the Caroline Voyager, set off from Pohnpei Harbor in the Federated States of Micronesia, or FSM for short. It's the fourth time the European Union's solar engineers are heading out on this ship. The Caroline Voyager is the only one in the country that regularly puts in at the remote outer islands of FSM. Most passengers get settled in above the hold. They don't realize it, but they're traveling with a friend. Stored far below them is a precious cargo of photovoltaic panels and batteries, plus all the components required to build 2 complete solar power plants, 2,000 kilometers away. This boat is the only means the Renewable Energy Program team has to get its equipment and crew to its destination. The European engineers and Micronesian technicians will be out to sea for 9 days. It's no ordinary commute to work, and it's just as extraordinary as the work these men are doing here.
I've been fortunate enough to be invited to this project here in the Federated States of Micronesia, which is the implementation of 16 solar systems on various small outer islands. I like some form of adventure, I guess, and that sounded pretty much like it. You know, challenging environment, also challenging to really implement the systems under these conditions.
And also the challenge to master the logistics, to train people, to raise awareness about solar energy, renewable energy, energy efficiency, energy saving. These are all topics which are not much touched yet on these islands.
The solar energy engineers have been underway in FSM for 4 months now, bringing environmentally friendly solar power systems to remote islands. The project is implemented by the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat and is being financed by the 9th European Development Fund. This will be the technicians' longest tour yet.
I'm expecting a lot of ocean, I think, for the first few days. And then, then a nice big solar installation. It's the biggest ones we've done so far. So, looking forward to that.
Navigating a coral reef is never easy, and the captain has to succeed at it several times a day, every day. The Federated States of Micronesia is an island nation in the western part of the Pacific Ocean.
It's not too bad.
Most of the more than 600 islands are flat coral islands surrounded by reefs.
We're heading here to Puluwat Atoll.
The route to the planned solar installations will lead the team straight across the country. The captain points out the way. The team is already familiar with some of the islands, as they've already installed solar power plants there. They plan on stopping by some of them to see how everything's going.
first of all, I didn't know where Micronesia was. Had to look it up on the internet, and then I thought, hey, wow, this is a pretty remote place. And so it was partly also the unknown that go to a country that I'd never been to before.
Peter Konings, the project leader, has been working on the project in FSM for 2 years.
Federated State of Micronesia, they have a lot of small islands, remote atolls, where no access to electricity has ever been established, so there's no power generation. And the focus was actually to upgrading the living standard, the living conditions on these outer islands by introducing affordable, environmental clean and economically sound energy.
En route to Yap, the boat stops at an island at least once a day. Usually it drops anchor outside the lagoon a few hundred meters off the coast. The coral reefs prevent mooring any closer to land, and only the main islands have real harbors. Anyone disembarking here has to use a small motorboat. Passengers offload their purchases and luggage onto these local vessels, and even babies get transferred, carefully, very carefully. There's simply no other way to get around in this part of the world. The solar team grabs the chance to stretch their legs and do some vitally important research. It's not easy for the solar engineers to access current information about an island situation. Are there any generators? Maybe some solar panels? Is there any electricity at all? What do people here need? This is a golden and rare opportunity to find out, because the boat only comes by here every few months or so. The men's house is the main meeting place on every island. This is where news is shared and decisions are made. Everyone's turned out to greet the fresh arrivals. The EU's team of solar experts is a welcome sight. We
arrived there and had to introduce ourselves at the men's house, and it was a kind of culture which was long before us, and they still kept it up. And that was quite impressive to dive into this culture and to basically soak it up and get to know how the people live, and also the friendliness of the people. I mean, they're very hospitable and very open.
That is given only to the chiefs.
Sadly, time on the island is short. There's only 2 hours for a tour. The team surveys the island in advance of a planned follow-up project to be implemented next year. This island already has solar systems on a small scale. One is privately owned and the other is communal. Its job is to power 2 freezers which the islanders share. But they haven't worked for a while now, and no one can figure out what the problem is. A quick check shows the problem isn't the batteries. Maybe it's the freezers themselves or the switches. Maybe it's even the module. In any case, this is nothing unusual. The solar system here is around 8 years old, and there's no one trained enough to service it.
Well, from the size and from the quality, they could last longer, but the problem is always maintenance. If we don't look into that, if we don't send regular people to the islands, then we will have the problem sooner or later. And maintenance can be as simple as just cleaning contacts, checking contacts, checking the battery water and so on.
The freezers are essential to the islanders' well-being.
The only way we can preserve a little bit of meat for us, you know, the island is bad, fringing reef. We'll preserve it in the refrigerators, in the whatever they're called.
A little technical effort would be of enormous help to this community, which could then store its provisions.
These are the nations that really can be helped without a lot of money, but with a goodwill and a good motivation, you can really make a difference.
The conversation in the men's house turns to the subject on everyone's mind. Many of FSM's islands are literally threatened with extinction, and everyone's worried. Climate change has long gone from mere theory to acute reality, with all its consequences clearly visible and plainly felt.
And given the geographic disposition of the place for FSM, we have a lot of outlying atolls. And so we're very vulnerable to tidal surges, the effect of global warming. We've felt the adverse impact and effect of climate change. Not too long ago, we have that tidal surge that prompted the president to declare the entire country in a state of emergency.
The coral islands barely rise above the sea. The islanders have no access to most modern amenities. They eat the fish they catch and grow what they can from the relatively barren soil. Their staples are coconuts, breadfruit, bananas, and taro, a root crop similar to the potato. Not much else grows here that's edible, and now the little they subsist on is endangered.
The roots are falling off, getting rotten and falling off the plants.
Climate change is directly responsible for the plant's demise. Seawater levels are rising, and the salt water is soaking into the roots of the taro plant and killing it.
Most people expect the salt water to come from the sides and then fill up the taro patches. No, the salt water have come up from within the taro patches. So we are actually leaving the bad effect of climate change.
The islanders can see the results of a changing climate in more ways than one. Their coastlines are disappearing. The threatening rise in water levels is a stark reality on almost every island.
When did it start? Some time ago, but then you notice, you started so long ago, and then coming, and all of a sudden you say, hey, missing. This piece of land here is no longer exists. It's all gone.
I heard from authorities that it's possible that after maybe 50 years, some of these islands will be submerged. And that means even our high highlands, where some of our roads and houses are, will be also submerged.
High time to act. The changing climate is one of the main motivators behind the renewable energy program in FSM. The EU solar team says goodbye for now. Their time schedule is tight and the boat's about to leave. Soon, though, this island should benefit from the REP 5 program. But real change for the better will only happen here if the global community faces today's challenges and finally takes them on.
A lot of people feel disempowered. They wouldn't know what to do about it. But doing it on a small scale, if you look at what you can do at a micro level, and in this case, for me, that is installing solar panels, you can make a difference.
The Federated States of Micronesia agrees. The government has decided to channel all the money made available to it by the 9th European Development Fund into renewables. That decision set the course which ultimately brought the REP 5 program into being, executed by the Pacific Island Forum Secretariat. The 5 stands for the 5 participating Pacific Island nations. Alongside the Federated States of Micronesia, they're Nauru, Niue, Palau, and the Republic of the Marshall Islands. They all aim to decrease their dependency on oil and use ecologically responsible and renewable sources of energy. They also hope to send a message to the world at large, in full knowledge that the island nation's only hope for survival is a change of course amongst the industrialized nations.
They want to set an example, but make them in a better position to discuss with the Western world, for them also to reduce their carbon emission.
Team briefing ahead of the next island stopover. FSM country manager Peter Konings works for IT Power, which is leading the management of the REP5 program in the Pacific Island nations, along with the firms TransEnergie and ADEME. After 2 long years in the planning, the project is finally nearing completion. Peter's aim on this trip is to commission some of the newest solar installations, allowing them to go into operation. The next island is Satawan. Jos and his team of Micronesian technicians erected a solar power plant here 2 months ago. The island's school building got a 6-kilowatt system. Now it all comes down to last-minute fine-tuning and to check that everything works the way it's meant to.
This is the logbook, so we're asking the local operators to write down every day some parameters from the system, and that gives us now a very good opportunity to check what has happened to the system while we were not here.
The data looks good. Peter and Jos slip in a training session for the local operators who will be servicing the system from now on.
The water is now here, just below maximum. This is the minimum. So when you see this going a little bit down, you top it up with distilled water.
So when you go on an inspection, always take all your tools with you and just check if they are still tight. Yeah? You look at the fluid levels, you see how far they've gone down, and you make notes of all that.
54 solar panels will supply the classroom and the dormitories of the boarding school with light. Besides that, they'll also provide everyone with electricity for their radios, TVs, DVDs, laptops, and internet. The pupils will now be able to study in the evenings or listen to music after years of sitting in darkness. An earlier attempt at providing electricity failed dramatically.
It's very difficult to get to bring fuel here. It's very expensive. Yeah? And in fact, they've tried it before here, funnily enough. They had an island power system. You can see the power lines running here. And the system ran for maybe a couple of months, and then it became too expensive. Yeah, yeah. So it was unaffordable. And on top of that, that system was only running for about 4 hours every night. You know, from 6 till maybe 10 or 11.
As part of the final inspection, Peter checks all the cable joints.
And they have to be very tight. So I'm pulling the cable to see how tight it is. Okay. If I feel that the cable moves a little bit, and I have to start redo it.
All in all, Peter only finds a few small problems, which are immediately fixed. The installation has been a complete success. The Department of Education already ordered a VSAT satellite dish for the island. Soon, everyone here will benefit from a functioning communication center with internet and telephone.
Where the children can now hopefully start using computers soon. The principal just told us that laptops are coming, and that will make a big difference for them.
The computers have already arrived and are being put through their paces thanks to the solar system that's already online on the neighboring island of Moch. For the students here, it's been a huge breakthrough. It's extremely challenging to provide an education in the Federated States of Micronesia that's up to international standards because the small islands are spread so far and wide across the ocean. Use of computers with internet access is therefore an absolute necessity. It's the only way children and youngsters will ever have the chance for decent future prospects by completing job training courses or attending university. Peter checks the installation and the team makes a few improvements with the enthusiastic cooperation and support of the community. Here on Moch, the school won't be the only beneficiary of the system. The hospital can now run a refrigerator for vaccines, and the community will be able to store its fish in a freezer. The mayor thanks Peter Konings for all the hard work and entrusts him with a thank you letter to the European Union. Everyone benefits from the project directly and indirectly.
Beside these PV projects, solar energy projects, the installations, we do a lot of energy efficiency in the country, awareness campaign, so telling to the people how to reduce their consumption of energy, but also what is renewable energy, what can it do, how can it benefit the nation. And a lot of these activities were being done during these, let's say, 3 years. Thank you.
It's still a few more days to Yap. Passing the time on board is just, well, done as best one can. The Caroline Voyager is no luxury liner. It can get a bit cramped below decks.
You are being swayed from one side to the other side the whole day, and you get used to it. It's actually quite okay. And it's a small space. I think that's something to get used to. But it's also very relaxing. You can't do that much. You chat to people, and you can lay back and you can prepare for what's ahead or do a lot of reading. I enjoyed it.
The next stop is at the island of Onon. Axel and his team installed a mini-grid system here a few weeks ago.
Riding the wave, huh?
Wow.
Aye, aye, aye.
Disembarking brings back memories.
Did you already fell into the water once?
No, just get wet, that's all. Up to the hip, huh?
While offloading the batteries, high waves caused 2 of them to fall into the water.
This is the one that swam. It turned out not to swim.
Fortunately, the batteries survived their dip. Their casing prevented salt water from entering, and they are fully operational. The team double-checks the battery acid levels and tops the batteries up with distilled water. If the local operators service them well, these batteries will last up to 10 years. This small facility packs quite a punch. With 11.5 kilowatt peak and 3,000 amp-hour battery capacity, it's the largest of all the projects so far. And a dress rehearsal for the final 2 installations on Asor and Fadrai, where more complex systems are planned.
I worked out how much fuel it would save. You know, if you wanted to actually run this kind of a thing on a diesel generator, it would take probably about 20 drums of fuel a year. So it's like 400 drums of fuel over the lifetime of the system that you would have to carry to this island, which is, I mean, if you look around, the people have fuel for a month and then they run out because the boat hasn't come. So it's really an ideal solution.
Electricity is an absolute treat for these students. Classrooms, the cafeteria and infirmary, and the dormitories for the students who board here are now being supplied with electricity. A computer room with 20 computers is being planned, and internet access is to be available soon. While the solar team finishes checking the facility, local girls weave traditional wreaths of flowers for them as a thank you gift. They never had electricity here before. The last cable joints and switches are being checked in the power center.
So this one also has to go out. You need to hang on to these little screws now. And then I would possibly remove this.
The system has been cleverly designed to easily accommodate higher demand.
That's the good thing about you can. So instead of just having one 3 kilowatt unit, we could expand it up to 12 kilowatt. And then on each side you have the wiring centers, which makes it quite nice to put together. Let's just bend it like this. All I'm saying is let's work on it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but Jimmy, if I move it like that and it comes off, then I'm happy that it comes off now.
Okay.
Because this was already a weak link.
On-the-job training. These local technicians have learned a lot over the past months during the various installations. But maintaining the systems in the future is a critical issue.
But that training still has to happen, you know, to be able to maintain the system on this level, to check the system that there is no corrosion happening and no hot connections building up. So that is beyond the local operator's duty.
To keep the photovoltaic systems functioning smoothly over the coming years, special training sessions are planned for maintenance instruction. The solar team is celebrated by the locals with a song Axel requested. The implementation of solar power contributes to people's sense of hope for the future. Many left their island homes in search of a better quality of life. Now, though, people here are starting to believe they could have a good future at home.
It is a gift for tomorrow. The wisdom of going solar is something that is foreign to us, because the technology is quite foreign. But the sun is not something foreign to us. We live with it, and so we're very grateful that we're able to harness the power that is given to us by God.
On behalf of EU and all of us, I think, thank you very much.
It's the final leg of the journey to Yap. The evening is tinged with a romantic sunset. The solar engineers are thrilled their work is so well received. They're really looking forward to the grand finale.
Obviously we're going there for the two final installations, Karsten, yeah? The two biggest ones. So we're all looking forward. It'll be different from what we've done before. A bit more of a challenge.
Tomorrow morning, the boat will dock at the first of the two islands, in Fadrai. Early the next morning, the Voyager anchors as usual a bit off the coast. Jos and his team head off with the motorboat as early as possible, eager to get going with the project. And run straight into utter calamity. Advance work necessary for installing the rest of the facility is nowhere near done. And the team has all of 1 week left to build the plant.
It's a bit of a shock, isn't it? Because the foundation's not ready and they'll need a few days to cure.
Complete bafflement. What to do now? The boat is packed with equipment. The team came all this way and has to take the boat home next week. The schedule is tight. But as long as the foundation hasn't been poured and the concrete's not dry, there's not a thing anyone can do.
I wasn't really too surprised. You know, these things happen. And somehow we didn't get the correct information about the status of the project there. My first initial reaction was to try still to finish all the cementing and the concreting before we would leave here, and still try to get it done. But with hindsight, that would have been very difficult. So it was the right decision not to push that too far.
The schedule has to be completely rearranged. Nevertheless, the equipment gets unloaded. F for Fadrai. The solar power plant to be leaves the belly of the Voyager by the pallet. Everyone's mood is at an all-time low. And then it starts to rain. Definitely not a day anyone will be writing home about. The panels and the rest of the equipment will be stored for a while. They'll be safe in the men's house, right behind the concrete that's still waiting to be used. The solar team leaves without having achieved a thing.
So that's goodbye for dry. Goodbye for dry.
Even in paradise, not everything is perfect. Everyone starts to cheer up, though, once the neighboring island Azor is reached on the next day.
Yeah, looking good. Yeah. Axel is a lucky guy.
Is it coming to us or straight to the beach? To the other side?
Axel helps get the motorboat with its first load to its landing spot on shore, and then the team really starts to haul. The locals jump in as well. It takes about 40 trips back and forth on the motorboat before the entire cargo is unloaded. Altogether, 150 solar panels, 72 batteries, countless canisters, cables, nuts and bolts, and individual parts are being offloaded. The Micronesian technicians are pleased to finally get started with assembling the largest power plant so far in the REP 5 project. But everything grinds to a halt when the short links turn up missing.
We are looking for very short links. As long as short as that, and now they are like this. What did they have in mind?
The box with the short links got offloaded yesterday in Fadrai by mistake.
And yeah, that's the bus bars and everything. Okay, so how do we organize a boat? Mario.
One small oversight can become a huge problem on a remote island.
The major challenge is the question, when you are on the island, do you have everything? Do you have every screw, bolt and nut and tool? If you've forgotten one thing, you can't just go back and get it.
But this time it'll be all right, thank goodness, because Fadrai is only 1 hour away by motorboat. While the missing links are being retrieved, everyone else goes to sort out a highly prized item on loan: a satellite receiver for wireless internet access. The Secretariat of the Pacific Community has asked the team to test the receiver. If it works well, then receivers will be installed on other inhabited islands to connect them up to the world at large and to each other. It's critical for the schools, but also for everyone else to be able to telephone cheaply via the internet. Up to now, they've only been able to transmit via radio receiver. Positioning the satellite requires a very gentle touch indeed. The laptop gives the all clear.
Okay, stop! We got it! Signal! It's too low, you think?
9 days away from the office have led to quite a backload of emails for project leader Peter.
The junction boxes will be here on this side. They're always on one side. Start with that.
It's time to mount the PV panels.
Okay, so we start with, we need 5 in series. We've all agreed with that, and that's here.
Jos has a strategy session on installing the cables.
Okay, so we'll start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have to cross over. Then we go to the other side. Yeah?
150 solar modules are being installed on Azor. Each one has a capacity of 130 watts peak. Altogether, they reach 19.5 kilowatts peak of solar power. It's the largest off-grid installation in the entire North Pacific region to date. It's a 30-person team, all with various degrees of technical training and all fascinated by solar technology. Most are trainees. Employees of the government departments for transport, communication, and infrastructure are also participating, as well as people working in telecommunications. Some employees from the College of Micronesia have also come along.
Right, good. They work very independently, and after several installations, we can be really proud of them. From people who never had a solar panel in their hands, we have now solar technicians or junior technicians, and I think all of us are very proud with the results.
From the charge controller positive battery, we go to the circuit breaker so that we can disconnect, like in the other systems we've done, and we connect this to the battery. So solar in here, circuit breaker, through this charge controller, through that circuit breaker to the battery.
For Axel, it's the moment of truth. He's in charge of the group working on the power center, the heart of the facility. In just a few months, these Micronesian technicians have clearly learned their handiwork well under the tutelage of the EU solar engineers. Axel is proud of his team.
In the beginning, while you do training and, you have a lot of theory and you don't know how much people really grab of that, understand, it's been remarkable for me now to see that everybody has something to offer in one way or another, and it's really been rewarding to make an effort in one way or another, wherever somebody is good. So that's been very nice for me.
The short links for the batteries have arrived from Fadrai and fitted into place. There's been enough excitement around here. Time to call it quits. Everyone's still going strong in front of the power center. The electric cables to the households are being laid underground. Above-ground mains are too vulnerable to storms. YAP's utility is working hard at getting everyone hooked up, and the islanders are lending a hand as well. Even though it's being financed by the EU, power here won't be free of charge.
There has to be some sense of ownership, so people will get cash power meters that they will have to pay for the electricity that they're consuming, and that also will keep them thinking about their consumption and make sure that they switch off the lights when they're not needed, and also use efficient appliances. So that's important. That message has to come across because people do not have that history of using electricity like we have.
Azor is a small island with just 19 households and about 50 residents. A good 300 islanders are gone, working elsewhere, going to school, or simply in search of a place where life is a bit easier, where there's light, television, or a refrigerator. Linda was born on the island and still likes it here. She hopes that the electricity will tempt members of her family to return, to the prospects of a better quality of life. All the islanders opted explicitly for solar-generated power. They rejected a diesel generator out of hand. Evening wraps itself around paradise.
So the DC of the inverter and the charge control.
Relaxing in the hammock with solar chit-chat instead of cocktails. The view, though, pretty much makes up for any lack of luxury. Linda reads her book, as she always does in the evening. She's looking forward to finally being able to turn on a light to read by at the end of the week. Jos can't let it go and takes a part of his team back to Fadrai. Even though they can't build the facility this week, they can at least set up the batteries and get the power center ready. The batteries are being filled with battery acid today in Asor. This battery type has proven itself equal to the difficult climactic conditions. It'll survive for 10 years, if regularly serviced and topped up with distilled water by the local operator. Sustainability and durability of the installed systems are very important, as the islands are very remote. When the batteries need to be replaced at some point in the future, they'll be recycled.
Albert, check up here. Okay, stop.
Installing the modules is turning out to be problematic. The foundations weren't laid exactly according to plan. They're closer together than they should be.
That's 15 degrees, yeah? So what we need to know is this.
Now the panel's angle has to be checked for accuracy. They can't throw any shadows onto their neighbors.
But the angle is easy to calculate.
Fortunately, there's internet, and the course of the sun can be determined precisely.
30, 40, so it's at 240 degrees. On the other side we have 35.
The angle is okay. Work can proceed. On day 2 on Asor, the system is actually being put together much faster than expected. Peter has a radio date this afternoon. He wants to know how Jos and his team are doing on Fadrai.
Hello, this is Fadrai, go ahead.
Okay, here's Peter.
Okay, thank you. Peter, come in.
Hello, Mr. Fadrai. This is Peter Asha, over.
The work is here is going, not that it's going slow, but it's very hard work. The battery room is a complete hothouse, as you can imagine, without ventilation. And the batteries are extremely heavy. We've been working since this morning on putting the batteries on the rack, over.
Okay, copy that. So, nothing what you need from here to support you guys over there, over?
No, at the moment everything is fine. We have everything that we need.
Things are going full steam ahead on site in Asor. The first test run is meant to take place in 2 days' time. Getting to this point, erecting a solar power facility here took a long, long time. The REP 5 program itself was developed in 2006, and a list of potential projects was drawn up. Then followed many discussions with the islanders and the utilities. Feasibility studies were commissioned. The photovoltaic systems designed. The entire process took over 2 years, and then in just 4 months, each project suddenly sprang to life. The entire REP 5 program cost 12.4 million euros for the FSM and the other 4 Pacific Island nations. Radio operator Pedros pops by to see how everyone's getting on and to find out if he can make a phone call. He wants to call his son on the main island, Yap. It's a historic moment, the first phone call from Asor ever. The satellite system and Karsten's laptop don't disappoint.
Hello, Junior. Hello, here's Junior. Hi, Pedro, si malini mesor. Ah, phone kaya ka laptop ko iwa.
The biggest talk of the town or of the island is actually that they can call to Yap and that they can call to the US. And I think that would be a next step. Communication centers for all the islands. Of course you need solar energy. We are doing now a mini grid, but in the other islands we do systems for schools and dispensaries. I think that's really good, but without communication, without internet connection, they still are isolated places.
Day 3 on Azor. The system is roughly in place. Tomorrow it'll be put through its paces for the first time. Axel is pleased, but he's concerned about the future.
There is donor funding in one way or another. Systems go to communities, solar systems, so it's high tech, and they get rolled out, and you're on a tight time schedule. Time is money, all of this stuff, and you end up not spending enough time really with the community, with the local operators that you're training. So we bring money in a way, indirectly, through aid, and we bring technology, but we don't bring enough time. And so from that point of view, I think there'll be more support needed. And I think the EU's involvement, further involvement here in FSM will ensure that.
I think the most important thing is really to continue to increase awareness so that we can also elevate and increase the penetration of solar or renewable energy in society throughout the whole country. Without a proper awareness program to really advocate the use of renewable energy or alternative energy such as clean energy, it would be difficult for the penetration to really be permeated through society.
Jos and his team make it back to Azor just in time for the system's first run. In 2 months, they'll be back on Fadrai to continue with the installation there. Jos is impressed with the progress here.
How does this strike you?
Well, when you come in there from that side, it looks fantastic, eh? Really nice.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
495.
Final checks. Carsten and Peter test the voltage on every panel and look to see if all the cables have been properly laid.
Okay, thanks. Looks good. Only that one, huh? Still
Only one is left. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just checking. No, but the stickers, we checked the stickers, they are correct, but are they maybe internally wired?
Then we have to
One module isn't functioning properly. The voltage is too low and the reasons need to be made clear.
Go wrong, but it's not an obvious mistake because the wiring seems to be correct. It may be that there is a problem with the panel. It's actually the only thing we can think of. Yeah, it's the wrong way.
No, it's the wrong way.
The module is incorrectly polarized and needs replacing. The problem will be prime tutelage material for training technicians in the future. The midday sun sets the batteries bubbling. Everything's in place for the trial run. The suspense is palpable.
Okay.
Okay. Ready?
All good?
All good.
Charles, is the link tight?
Yes.
We had a little. We should have lights over there now. If we press here.
There you go.
And now it's on.
Is he on? Oh!
Alrighty. One life.
Now Vincent is.
Let's connect the satellite dish.
On.
Okay, 220.
Wow! 220 volts.
Albert, say that again? Wow! Wow! It's quite something to go to an island and have everybody electrified. That's great. It's 100%, you know.
The lights will go on tonight on Azor for the first time ever.
So there's still a lot of work to be done. That's my conclusion. But yeah, so far we've achieved a milestone, for sure. Can we have a few more people behind the panel there?
Jos immortalizes the moment for the team. Small details will be perfected over the next few days, but everyone's already quite proud of all they've achieved.
I like solar projects that are in remote places where people often don't have any access to electricity yet, because it can really change their lives, and that has been proven again here that that it does. So that's very nice to see when you switch on the lights in a dark place, basically.
Before the introduction of this system, people in the rural areas are attuned to just working from like 6 o'clock early in the morning, or maybe 7:30 when the sun rises until sunset. But now they know that there is also an option for them to prolong their working time to after sunset. So that in itself has contributed significantly to the way they work and they carry on with their normal daily activities.
Oh, wow, it's beautiful. It's just, I don't know what to say, but it's just beautiful.
The 16 solar projects realized under the auspices of the 9th European Development Fund are just a beginning for the Federated States of Micronesia. The next round of European Union funding under EDF 10 is already agreed, and by the end of 2012, many more photovoltaic systems will be installed. All this so the Pacific Island nations can declare their independence from fossil fuel imports and use the one thing they have an abundance of, the sun.
As conclusion for our program, REP 5, I think is a success story, and I really believe it. I think what we are doing, my colleagues in Fiji, the EU, but definitely also the government and the people of the nation, all of them are working shoulder to shoulder and trying to get the best out of these programs, which will help the nation in the next phase, the next century actually. They have to adapt on climate change. We have seawater levels rising. They have a lot of challenges coming up. And this is the first step, I think, for them to be less dependent on the Western world.
It's very important that FSM continues to solidify the relationship with the EU. So far, it has been a very strong and successful relationship, and we want to continue with that momentum. EU is kind of taking the lead role in making sure that renewable energy is part of our social economic development.
PDV, thank you for this opportunity.
European Union, thank you too.
Yeah.
Micronesia, thank you for inviting us.
Angela, thank you for
Angela, thank you. It's been nice having you with us. Really.
See you next time. EDF 10, we are coming.
Suke, suke, let the boy.